The dual portion of the college wrestling season is officially back, and there is no better conference to watch this season than the Big Ten Wrestling Conference. Year over year, we see top 10 matchups week after week, and possible national final matchups could be on a random Friday night or Sunday afternoon. Most weekends from this point on, there will be jam-packed with Big Ten matchups between amazing programs like the Nittany Lions and Happy Valley and Penn State, the returning national champs Iowa Hawkeyes, and the traditional filled Golden Gophers of Minnesota, along with several other programs looking to put several wrestlers on the All-American stand. The 2022 Big Ten season is already loaded with drama-filled matches, and the Big Ten has the top 3 spots in the national rankings, so every weekend there will be some form of intense competition. The first week of competition within the Big Ten did not disappoint, and all of the matches were great regardless of what Big Ten stream you were watching. However, before I highlight one of the best college wrestling weekends so far this season, hi everyone, my name is Tanner, and this is TrueTan Wrestling. I primarily make dual and tournament recaps, college retrospectives from time to time, and breaking news stories all within the D1 college wrestling space. I also make exclusive wrestling content on Patreon like podcasts and articles made by yours truly. If any of that sounds interesting to you, please go check out the link in the description below for my Patreon information and hit that like and subscribe button for more content in the future while you're down there. If you have any questions or thoughts throughout this video, feel free to shoot me a comment in the comment section below. Now, with all that said, let's highlight possibly the best conference in college wrestling, the Big Ten, and stick around to the end of the video where I'll claim my Big Ten Wrestler of the Week. For starters, there was so much drama, upset, and exciting matches to talk about in this first week. I cannot talk about everything, but don't worry, I will cover most of the fun and exciting aspects of this awesome weekend. Anything Big Ten will be discussed, and your favorite Midwest team will get a shout out. Also, I love the Big Ten, but don't worry, I will highlight other conferences as the year goes on. I already have ACC and Big 12 projects in development, and I will give love to my MAC, Pac-12, and SoCon fans out there, along with the EIWA, and so on, so don't worry. We start our journey in the Big Ten by traveling to Maryland to talk about the Penn State vs. Maryland duel. There's not a ton to say here, but there is for sure some massive highlights, which you always get with Penn State, no matter who they wrestle. For starters, we saw Drew Hildebrand make his Penn State debut at 125. He looked back to his true form by pinning Maryland starter Spencer in the first period. I'm glad he got to wrestle right away in the second half, and there was no delays with this process. Brooks also beat Southern Scuffle champ Cochran at 184 by 19-7 major decision, which sort of goes to show how wide the gap is between the top tier at this weight. The Scuffle 184 bracket was also pretty strong, so this was not only a great win, but a super impressive win by Brooks. Penn State would end up shutting out Maryland 46-0 on the Terps' only Big Ten match of the weekend. Penn State wrestled all assumed starters, and also right before this duel, the news broke that Brady Berge is returning to college wrestling, so go check out my video on that for more information. Most of the matches did not go the full distance, but if they did, they were still bonus points. But Etzel picked up a nice decision win over Bell, who beat Facundo early in the year at the Clarion Open, so this further shows that he is the guy at 165 for the Nittany Lions. We travel a little north to find the Rutgers Arena, where they face Big Ten opponent Indiana. This win marked Rutgers' 11th straight win on the season with no losses, which truly shows that this might be one of the best Rutgers team ever. And yes, I know they had a team with 2 national champs, but this team is all around good with several All-American threats and Big Ten top placers. Most of the results from this duel you would expect to happen, with Rutgers running away with the home win 29-7. Indiana's Bullock picked up a win though at heavyweight, winning by major decision over McDermott of Rutgers. And Brock Huckins continues to look good at 133, winning 6-0 over Britton of Rutgers. Alvarez at 133 for Rutgers hasn't wrestled since he lost to Bailey at Mat Men Open, so I hope he's healthy. And then of course there was a matchup between Washington of Indiana and returning 4th place All-American Poznansky of Rutgers at 184. Poznansky would add a nice win to his resume by beating Washington, who was undefeated on the year with several pins and bonus point victories. Washington easily has the talents to All-American this season, so like I said, this was a nice win for Poznansky, especially since he missed Mat Men Open. The next team to talk about created a lot of hype on Friday, right after picking up a huge win over the CKLV champions Nebraska, and it was at Lincoln. Purdue lost their last duel to Dresser's Iowa State squad, which was actually Dresser's 200th duel victory, but besides that, Purdue came into Lincoln looking to wrestle, and they came out winners. The obvious match to talk about first is freshman Ninehouse knocking off returning 2-time All-American Labriola of Nebraska, who took 3rd at 174 last year and won CKLV this season. This clearly shakes up the Big Ten, and I don't think many people saw it coming just based off Ninehouse's early results. He had a few Big Ten losses even coming into this match, the notable one being a major decision loss to Ethan Smith of Ohio State, who Labriola already beat this year. However, Ninehouse has always shown signs of eliteness, and this was a nice way to start his Big Ten schedule. Of course, Labriola will bounce back from this, I have no doubt about that, and I guess it is nice for him to take his first loss now, rather than in March, but this for sure shakes up the Big Ten in many ways. Other Purdue upsets were Lyon knocking off Vens at 184, which I also did not see coming, but Vens can drop these kind of matches from time to time, plus Lyon is an elite competitor regardless of his ranking. Schultz of Nebraska beat Panola of Purdue at 197, which was a match I was interested in watching considering they both looked nice in the first half of the year. Ramos took out Thompson at 133 to help build his freshman year resume, and finally we unfortunately did not see Robb at 157 for Nebraska, and I hope he is healthy after a medical forfeit out of CKLV. However, Parrish stepped in at 157 for Nebraska and got a nice win that they desperately needed. Unfortunately that was not enough though, and Purdue got the massive upset win over a top 10 Nebraska team. We move all the way back to the Midwest to talk about Northwestern at Wisconsin, which was a duel that I was watching for a while and it was really entertaining. That was extremely competitive between two mid-tier Big Ten wrestling teams. Wisconsin would win the duel in the long run, but there was still a ton to talk about, and this also extended Wisconsin's undefeated winning streak this year so far. Starting at 125, we finally saw the return of D'Agostino for Northwestern, and I was getting super curious where he has been because he missed the whole first half of the year. He looked a little slow starting the match, I'll be honest, giving up an early takedown and getting rode out for most of the first half of the match. However, he would rally back with a reversal and some takedowns to eliminate Ryan Time and come back to win over returning All-American Barnett of Wisconsin. This was a crazy start for the duel, and I really did not see it coming after the first half of the match, where it was really not looking good for D'Agostino, but it was great to have him back, and just remember his name because I will talk about him a little later in this video. The Northwestern All-American Cannon picked up a win over promising Berwick of Wisconsin, and high Florida crew Tal Shaher beat ranked and Mat-Men Open top 4 finisher Zargo of Wisconsin at 141, which I'll be honest was a huge win for his development and confidence. And I really did not see it coming because Zargo has looked really great this season. Gomez versus Yaya was the match to highlight, and it easily lived up to the hype at 149. It was a little slow at first in the match, but once they started opening up, it was a takedown battle, with Gomez of Wisconsin winning all the exchanges to beat the returning third place All-American 8-6 to get the Badgers fans up on their feet. Deacon saw the light again at 157, but Wisconsin starter Modell wrestled him super tough, keeping him to a decision, which was massive for a duel like this. The freshman for Wisconsin and Mat-Men Open champion Meaty looked awesome at 165, winning 13-1, and this kid just likes to score, man. He will attack from all positions and try to score for all 7 minutes. McNally for Wisconsin at 174 had a nice win over Big Ten improvement wrestler Fisher of Northwestern. I know he had a little rocky start to the season, but nothing crazy bad, and this was a nice win to add some respect back to his name. Finally, Davis in a heavyweight gathered a huge win over returning All-American Hilger of Wisconsin, and I've been waiting for a win like this from Davison because he's looked super impressive this year and at CKLV, so I knew a win like this was possible and a great win to end the duel, even though Wisconsin had it locked up already. Man, that was almost a full duel breakdown right there. Trust me, I had to cut a lot of that out, but I mean, what could really top Purdue over top 10 Nebraska or Northwestern and Wisconsin having a sleepy competitive duel? Oh yeah, there was primetime Big Ten Network Iowa wrestling Minnesota, who I'll be honest has a great team in my opinion, and I could see one of their 20-ish ranked wrestlers popping off soon or in March, because they are just scrappers, man. Also, I could do a full duel breakdown on this Minnesota-Iowa match, but I think I'll just stick to the flip note version and discuss a few matches more in detail as I see fit. The biggest thing to highlight is that we all saw the third matchup between Drake Ayala of Iowa and Patrick McKee of Minnesota at 125, and yes, that means Drake's red shirt is pulled and he will more than likely be the guy moving forward at 125 for the Hawkeyes. However, he would once again lose to McKee, and honestly, he looked super dominant once again, getting the opening takedown, but McKee would rattle off several shots and reshots to win the third meeting and showing that he still has a little bit more experience than young Ayala. Also, Ayala looks like he's really trying to ride a little bit more off these takedowns, which shows he is really trying to improve each match, which is super promising for any Hawkeye fan to see. Now, with that one out of the way, this match actually started at 165, and Marinelli was pushed by Southern Scuffle third place finisher Carlson, which I really did not see coming. Carlson wasn't even a starter at 165 coming into this season, but Marinelli would eventually win with a dirty trip, and a win is a win no matter how close the score. We then saw the return of Michael Kemmer as he smashed through another Scuffle placer in O'Reilly. It appears Kemmer has been out with a shoulder injury, but he looked alright to me, and his offense is not looking hindered at all. Honestly, it was really awesome to see Kemmer back in the lineup, and I'm excited to see him at 174 as the Big Ten schedule starts. Then of course there was Gable Stevenson's match at heavyweight, and oh my gosh, is he good. I've barely seen 125 pounders move like Gable does, but he moves full 285 pounders around the mat like it is nothing. Cassiope of Iowa had no real answers for Gable, as he smashed him looking like he wasn't even really trying. After the match, he got a standing ovation from the Iowa Hawkeye fans, which was really surprising to see considering it was in Carver Hawkeye Arena, but Iowa fans love their wrestling, and you can't really knock an Olympic champ, so this was pretty awesome to see, and great to see Gable back on the mat again. DeSanto had a close match against Gleeville, Minnesota at 133. Then Ironman had another super close match against Berglund of Minnesota. They both have been having somewhat close matches, more Ironman than DeSanto, but I am sure they are just in minor ruts right now, and you'd rather see them wrestle like this rather than at Nationals later in March. Just think of DeSanto at Big Tens compared to Nationals last season, and it was night and day different, so I'm not really too worried. Murin at 149 for the Hawkeyes would also get a last-second takedown over Blockus of Minnesota, which is huge for Big Ten seedings later in the year. Finally, the duel ended with Brandon Lee of Minnesota against Caleb Young of Iowa at 157, which feels like the 100th time they've wrestled, but I like the rivalry overall, even though some of their matches might be a little boring in my opinion. But this match was anything but boring, to be honest. Young would get an early takedown, and I really thought he was going to pull off the win as the clock kept ticking down, but Brandon Lee really showed his clutch gene and got the match-winning takedown for the Golden Gophers. I might have sounded a little negative toward Iowa this duel, and I might hold them to too high of a standard, but I really think they will still be a great team come March, and Minnesota is a tough opponent, and they still won 22-10, which is very convincing. Then we travel all the way to Michigan on Saturday afternoon to see Ohio State take out Michigan State, and a few interesting things happened during this duel. A few Ohio State stars did not wrestle, and they did cancel an American duel about a week ago, so maybe it was COVID related, but that's total speculation on my part. The Buckeyes looked very dominant with Sasso gaining a pin at 149, Ethan Smith at 174 gaining a 24-9 tech fall, Caleb Romero gaining a pin at 184, still looking large and better than ever, along with Gavin Huffman bumping up to heavyweight to gain the win. Ohio State also bumped up Rocky Jordan to 197, but Cavi totally controlled most of the match and got the win for Michigan State. Saldat at 157 was also one of the only shining moments for Michigan State, as he would be down late to Hubbard of Ohio State, who showed that he has some serious promise in this weight at 157, but Saldat will get the last second takedown to win the match for Michigan State. However, be on the lookout for Hubbard, who looks very promising for Ohio State at 157. Other notable wins were Karchler picking up a 15-6 major decision win over Fish of Michigan State, who has also looked pretty good this season. Overall, the Bucks look great, even though they were missing guys like D'Amelio out at 141 and bumping guys up, so no Orndorff at heavyweight either. This was the only Saturday duel, so we moved right along to Sunday where we saw even more great matches. Purdue and Iowa had some awesome aspects to it, but unfortunately Purdue could not keep their upset streak alive. The most notable win was of course Ayala rebounding to beat top 10 opponent Schroeder of Purdue, looking tough from all positions and really stirring up the pot at 125 in the Big Ten. There was no DeSanto this match, so they threw in Ybarra at 133, who got majored by Ramos of Purdue, picking up the Boilermakers' only victory on the day. Ironman had another close match with Phileas, and he is an elite opponent, so this was just another close match that is still a win to add on to Ironman's resume. No Kendall Coleman for Purdue at 157, so we missed Young versus Coleman. Abe Assad picked up another nice victory over Lyon of Purdue to end Lyon's upset run for the weekend. There was also Warner, who beat Panola to keep Warner on the right track for Big Tens. Finally, Kemmer Ninehouse was pretty competitive in the beginning, but then Kemmer really blew him out of the water with some turns to win via tech fall at 174, which really put some things into perspective. Unlike Northwestern on Friday, their duel was not very competitive, with a few starters not wrestling until the end in their match against Minnesota. With that said, Gable still looked amazingly impressive, beating Davidson at heavyweight, and Davidson did have a nice Friday. Unfortunately, his Sunday was a little rough, wrestling the returning national champ and Olympic gold medalist. Yo would get a nice rebound win, beating Blockus 6-1 in the final match of the duel to at least give Northwestern the final laugh, even though they lost 31-9. Cannon would beat Gleva at 133, and Bergen would beat Tal Jaher at 141 to end Northwestern's small winning streak. That streak I'm referring to all started with D'Agostino, who put Northwestern on the board in this duel. I can't believe D'Agostino did it again, but he did. He was really losing, and then all of a sudden started coming back on McKee, and he needed a ride out to hold McKee off in the last 30 seconds. But instead of just riding McKee out, he gets 2 quick back points, locks his hands, and wins the match by 1 with another impressive comeback match, and I was left speechless once again. Welcome back to college wrestling, D'Agostino. Indiana versus Penn State was an alright match in Happy Valley. Hildebrand picked up another win over Moran, who is a productive starter for them. There was no Nick Lee or RBY, so Indiana picked up wins there, and Negron dropped a match at 157 to Indiana's Gilcher. But after that, it was all Penn State, with Brooks smashing another high-level opponent at 184 in Washington to even further himself away from the pack. Rutgers vs. Wisconsin was another awesome, entertaining duel in Madison. This was the battle between two undefeated wrestling squads duking it out. This match came all the way down to heavyweight, and Hilger rebounded big from his Friday night loss to win and keep the Badgers undefeated on the year, handing the New Jersey team their first loss on the season. Other notable moments during this duel were Olivieri getting his first star of the season and getting his red shirt pulled to get a victory over Berwick of Wisconsin. Olivieri is a very promising freshman, and he placed at the Mat-Men Open, and I think this move might be telling for Alvarez's long-term health and the 133 spot. Rivera looked good as ever, smashing Zargo of Wisconsin, giving him his second loss on the weekend. Gomez of Wisconsin knocked off Big Ten third-place finisher Van Brill, and Gomez continues to raise his stock at this weight. There was also the rematch of Bolzak vs. Amos at 197, which I really did not expect to be competitive, but Amos of Wisconsin made some serious adjustments, almost winning the match, keeping wrestling fans on the edge of their seats, but Bolzak of Rutgers will remain undefeated, digging deep to get the win over the very, very promising freshman. McNally at 174 also added on to his great weekend and sees a rebound by beating Turley of Rutgers, which was a rematch from the round of 12 at 174, a match that McNally lost to lose out on All-American last season when he was at Kent State. However, he looked great and got revenge and put the Badger fans back on their feet. Lastly, and well, I guess oddly enough, we are going to end with the only not Big Ten versus Big Ten matchup, but instead a Big Ten versus ACC matchup in Pitt versus Michigan, which had some wild news dumps, upsets, and action. For starters, all the Michigan big guns we have been waiting to see again made their way back into the lineup. Massa and Amin both came out firing, picking up falls for the Wolverines, and Brucky pulled an amazing upset, beating Bonacorsi at 197 with a come-from-behind victory. Also, Paris smashed Mat-Men Open semifinalist Slinger of Pitt by 14-4 major decision at heavyweight. There was no Cam Amin of Michigan at 165, so Wenzel got a forfeit, which would have been an interesting match, and no Ragusin at 133 for Michigan either, so Medley would wrestle Philippi, but the weight and skill difference were a little too much, and Philippi picked up the 5-2 decision win at 133. Willowan showed that he still has Elijah Cleary's number, even after his recent major successes, and Lewan would win in a classic 3-1 fashion at 157. And then the final 3 points to make, starting out with Suriano making his return with the long hair too. Well, longer than we've ever seen it. He looks like he's really handling the 125 weight extremely well as he cruised past Curry of Pitt, who was a former national qualifier transfer from American. This was awesome to see him in the lineup this soon, and it will only get better as the season goes on. His next match should be against Heisman of Ohio State, so be on the lookout for that this Friday. I mean, it is the Ohio State-Michigan duel, so it's going to be awesome regardless. And then the next Friday after that, he'll be facing Penn State, his former school, and Drew Hildebrand in Michigan. The last major points to bring up is that Storr has yet to return from injury at 149. And then, of course, the major upset was Cole Matthews at 141, getting back to one of his peak performances, knocking off top 4 wrestler Micic with an 11-5 decision win. Matthews looked so tough here and got some back points and takedowns that Micic just could not recover from. Seems like he is still trying to transition back to his dominant folk-style top game from a few years ago. But we have to remember, he is up in a new weight class and he was training freestyle for so long during the pandemic. It is going to take some time for him to get back to his peak folk style form. Plus, we have to remember the time Micic almost got teched by DeSanto a few years ago at CKLV and then would make the finals that same year, so Micic can handle some adversity and knows how to adapt to change. Overall, great win for Matthews. I can't stress that enough, and he will once again be scary in March wherever he's placed in the bracket. Phew. Well, that was a lot. But what can you really expect from probably the deepest conference in NCAA wrestling? No offense to Big 12 and others. Now, I know I kept you all waiting to the end of the video for my Big 10 wrestler of the week, which honestly could probably go between Brooks of Penn State at 184, Gable Steveson at heavyweight for Minnesota, or DiAgostino at 125 for Northwestern, because they all beat highly ranked guys, some of which were All-Americans last year, and 2 of which beat their guys in dominant fashion. Considering a few other factors, I think I'll give this one to DiAgostino of Northwestern, because he beat the returning NCAA 3rd and 8th place finishers, after also not All-American himself last year. And this weekend was his first weekend back, so this was super impressive on his part. If you have any questions on my pick, or if you have your own picks on your Big 10 wrestler of the week, feel free to send me a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Alrighty, that was more than enough talking for me on my part, so give this video a like if you like this style of video, this massive weekend breakdown, or feel free to hit that subscribe button for more wrestling content in the future. I don't plan to do this every week because I want to make other videos, and this was a monster video in development, but I also gotta give some other conferences some love, you know what I mean? So don't worry, wrestling fans, I'll cover some other conferences besides Big Ten, I promise. With all that said, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.